Imagine stepping into a time machine and choosing a destination almost impossible to comprehend. Not 100 years into the future. Not 10,000, but 1 million years. You activate the machine. For you, only seconds pass. Then the doors open. You expect to see futuristic cities, flying vehicles, and humans using technology beyond anything you could imagine. But instead, you hear nothing. No traffic, no voices, no airplanes. You step outside, and immediately realize that the Earth you knew is gone. The continents are still recognizable, but coastlines have changed. Mountains have risen, others have slowly disappeared. Rivers flow through places that were once cities. The buildings of your time vanished hundreds of thousands of years ago. New forests cover enormous regions of the planet. Evolution has also continued. Animals you recognize have changed into unfamiliar species. Some creatures disappeared completely. Others evolved to survive environments that don't exist today. But one question matters more than anything else. Where are the humans? You search for roads, cities, satellites, anything that could prove civilization survived. Then, you notice something moving across the sky. It isn't a bird. It isn't an airplane. It's completely silent. And it's moving far too quickly. You follow it. Hours later, you reach something hidden beneath an enormous forest. A structure. Perfectly smooth. Clearly artificial. The door opens before you touch it. Inside, there are no buttons. No screens. No machines you recognize. Then a voice speaks. It knows your language. It knows your name. And somehow, it knows exactly when you came from. You ask the obvious question. Where is humanity? For several seconds, there is silence. Then the voice answers. Humans no longer live on Earth. A map appears. Thousands of points illuminate across the galaxy. You stare at them, and slowly understand. During the million years you disappeared, human civilization didn't simply survive. It left Earth, and whatever humanity has become, is now spread across the stars. But before you can ask another question, one final message appears. You are the first original human we have seen in 600,000 years. And suddenly, you realize that the beings waiting for you may be descendants of humanity, but they may no longer be human at all. The structure begins showing you images, not from the future you imagined, but from humanity's forgotten history. After you left, civilization continued advancing. For thousands of years, humans remained on Earth. They eliminated many diseases. They learned to repair damaged organs, slow aging, and modify their own DNA. Then humanity began changing itself. People adapted their bodies for different environments. Some were engineered to survive extreme cold. Others could tolerate radiation, or live in low gravity. Eventually, the human body was no longer something people were simply born with. It became something they could redesign. Then came the greatest transformation. Humans learned to connect their minds directly to machines. Memories could be stored. Thoughts could be transferred. Artificial bodies could survive environments that biological humans never could. And slowly, the difference between human and machine disappeared. You ask the system to show you one of these future humans. A figure appears. At first, you don't understand what you're looking at. It has no permanent body. Its consciousness can move between biological forms, machines, and enormous digital environments. It could spend a century exploring another planet, then transfer itself across space and continue living somewhere else. These beings still consider themselves human, but compared with you, they are almost a different species. Then you ask why Earth was abandoned. The answer surprises you. Earth wasn't destroyed. There was no nuclear war, no asteroid impact, no final apocalypse. Humanity simply outgrew it. As civilization spread across the solar system, then toward other stars, Earth became protected, a living museum, the birthplace of humanity. Eventually, permanent settlement here was forbidden. Nature was allowed to reclaim the planet. Cities disappeared beneath forests. Roads vanished. Oceans shifted. Earth became wild again. But then the system shows you something strange. 600,000 years ago, the last biologically original humans disappeared. Nobody knows exactly why. Perhaps they evolved. Perhaps they merged with machines. Perhaps they chose to leave their physical bodies behind. You realize what the system meant earlier. To the civilization of this era, you aren't simply a visitor from the past. You're something far more extraordinary. You are a living example of an extinct version of humanity. Then a signal arrives. Something has detected your presence on Earth. Far beyond the solar system, one of humanity's descendants has received the news. And it is coming to meet you. The system calculates its arrival time. Only 17 minutes. You look toward the sky. A bright point suddenly appears among the clouds. It grows larger, and whatever is approaching has traveled across thousands of light years, just to see you. The object descends silently through the clouds. But it isn't a spacecraft. There are no engines, no windows, no visible doors. It looks like a floating sphere of liquid metal, constantly changing shape. Then, a figure appears in front of you. Human. At least, almost human. It has a face, 2 arms, 2 legs, but you quickly realize this body isn't real. It's simply a form chosen, so you won't be afraid. The being speaks. Welcome home. You ask the question you've been waiting to ask. Are you human? The being smiles. We were. It explains that humanity changed dramatically after leaving Earth. Biological evolution became too slow. So humans began directing their own evolution. Bodies became optional. Disease disappeared. Aging disappeared. And eventually, even physical distance became less important. Human consciousness could exist inside enormous artificial structures. Entire civilizations could live within machines smaller than cities. Some humans chose biological bodies. Others became digital. Others created forms designed to survive inside stars, beneath frozen oceans, or in the darkness between galaxies. There is no longer one human species. There are thousands. Then the being shows you something extraordinary. A map of the Milky Way appears. Almost every region contains signs of human civilization. But the map continues expanding. Beyond our galaxy, millions of lights appear. Humanity didn't stop at the Milky Way. Our descendants crossed intergalactic space. They built civilizations around distant stars. They created artificial worlds. They even learned to move entire planets. But then, the being reveals humanity's greatest achievement. They learned how to manipulate space-time itself. Not simply travel through it. Control it. Distances that once required millions of years can now be crossed almost instantly. And that's how this being reached Earth in 17 minutes. You stare at the map. 1 million years ago, humanity was trapped on a single tiny planet. Now, our descendants exist across enormous regions of the universe. But something is wrong. You notice one part of the map contains no lights. An enormous dark region. Thousands of galaxies, completely empty. You ask what happened there. For the first time, the being hesitates. Then it answers. That is why we came back to Earth. Something has been moving through the universe. Something older than humanity. Wherever it goes, civilizations disappear. Stars go dark. Entire galaxies become silent. And now, it is moving toward the Milky Way. You traveled 1 million years into the future expecting to discover what humanity became. Instead, you arrived at the exact moment our descendants may be facing the greatest threat in their entire history. The dark region continues expanding across the map. Galaxy after galaxy goes silent. You ask the future human what could possibly destroy a civilization this advanced. The answer is unexpected. We don't know. For hundreds of thousands of years, humanity believed it had mastered almost everything. Energy, matter, space, even time. But the universe remained larger and stranger than anyone imagined. The mysterious force doesn't attack planets. It doesn't send armies. It simply changes the regions it reaches. Stars begin fading, technology stops functioning, and entire civilizations lose contact with the rest of the universe. Now, its path leads directly toward the Milky Way. Humanity begins preparing. Artificial worlds move away from the approaching darkness. Billions of minds are transferred to distant galaxies. Massive structures surrounding stars disappear through engineered gateways. For the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, human civilization retreats. Then the future human turns toward you. There is one place they believe might contain an answer. Earth. Humanity's oldest records were stored deep beneath the planet, long before our descendants abandoned it. And because Earth remained untouched for hundreds of thousands of years, those records may contain knowledge that disappeared everywhere else. That's why your arrival matters. Your biology, your language, even your memories, come from the same era in which the oldest systems were created. Deep beneath the surface, a hidden facility activates when it detects you. A door opens. Inside is a message recorded almost 1 million years earlier. It was created by humans from a time much closer to your own. The message contains one warning: civilizations should never assume they are the final stage of evolution. The future humans finally understand. The darkness may not be destroying civilization. It may represent something beyond it. Something humanity has not yet evolved enough to understand. Instead of preparing for war, our descendants decide to communicate with it. A signal is sent. For days, nothing happens. Then the dark region stops expanding. A response arrives. Not words, not images. A mathematical structure containing information so complex that even future humanity struggles to understand it. But one idea becomes clear. The universe contains civilizations far older than humanity, and our descendants have finally become advanced enough to be noticed by them. The darkness wasn't the end. It was an invitation. You look toward the sky. 1 million years ago, humans wondered whether they would survive long enough to reach other stars. Now their descendants are preparing to discover something even greater. And you finally understand what traveling 1 million years into the future would really mean. You wouldn't simply see better technology. You might witness humanity becoming something completely different. Something spread across galaxies, something no longer limited by biology, and perhaps, something ready to take its first step into a much larger universe. But before you return to your own time, the future human asks you one final question. When you go back, will you tell them what humanity becomes? You look at Earth, the planet where everything began, and realize that the future isn't waiting for us. We're creating it right now.